What's up guys, and welcome back to another video. This is going to be a complete video of how to cut and sew this shirt. It's going to be a full video from A to Z, step by step, on how to cut a double-breasted shirt. But you can see here we have a vintage lapel and a vintage collar. So I'll take you guys through the process of doing this step by step. So all you have to do is to make sure you give the video a thumbs up and you make sure you subscribe to the channel if you are yet to subscribe to the channel. So let's get straight into the video. And I noticed that 60% of you guys watching my video are yet to subscribe, so please smash the subscribe button and let's get straight into the video. You can see what I have on the neck right here. So we're going to cut this together and we're going to sew it all the way together and cut the collar. Let's get into it. So this is the fabric I'll be using. I need you guys to pay good attention in this video very well. I already folded my fabric into two, right? I'm going to put the measurement right there on the screen so that you guys can follow up step by step. So now my chest measurement, as you guys can see on the screen, is 40 inches. Pay good attention to what I am doing in this video and do not skip. If you skip, you might miss something that is important. So now I'm going to divide my chest circumference, which is 40 divided by 4 inches, right? 40 divided by 4, right? Which will give me a total of 10 inches. That is the frame that I will be drawing on this fabric right there so that you guys can understand. Now I'm going to add an extra 1 inch for my sewing allowance. Extra 1 inch for my sewing allowance. So the measurement is going to start after the label on the fabric itself. So now 40 divided by 4, which is 10 plus 1, will give me 11 inches. So I'm going to mark my 11 inches at this place right here. You guys can see that. And also at this place, I'm going to mark my 11 inches. You can see. And now I'm going to measure my length. I want to do this one after the other so that you can understand what I am doing. So my length measurement is 28 inches, right? So I'm going to mark my 28 inches at this place. 28 inches. I'm going to mark my 28 inches at this place. You can see that. Mark my 28 here. And also at this side, I'll mark my 28 here also. So this is my accurate chest measurement plus the allowance. If assuming it is not a double-breasted, right? This is the accurate chest circumference plus our allowance. If it is not a double-breasted. If you're just working with a normal shirt, this is exactly how we're going to cut out our frame, right? So I want you guys to understand that. So now after that is done, you're now supposed to determine how much you want the shirt to overlap one another, right? How much do you want the shirts to overlap one another? So now I want the shirt to overlap at a total of 3.5 inches. 3 inches is okay. The 0.5 inches is for the sewing, right? So I'll be adding extra half of an inch for the sewing. So I'll be adding an extra half of an inch for the sewing, right? So I'm doing this one after the other so that you guys are going to understand very well. So now at this front part right here, I'm going to make it a total of 3.5. I'm going to add an extra 3.5 to that. That is what is going to give us the double-breasted. That's what is going to give us the overlap on the chest. I hope you guys understand that. If assuming I just calculated all these things together, you might not understand the part that is the double-breasted. That's why I do it separately, so you're going to understand. So now I'm going to mark my 3.5 here. You can see that 3.5 inches here. I'm going to mark it here. And I'm also going to mark my 3.5 inches at this place. You can see that. You can see that. So now we have our entire frame plus the overlap. We have our entire frame plus the overlap. So if I measure it from the down part, which is our 11 inches plus our 3.5 inches, we give us a total of 14.5 inches for our front panel. So this is the front panel. It gives us a total of 14.5 inches for the front panel. So I want you guys to pay good attention here. So after connecting everything together, all I have to do now is just to cut it out. Then we are going to cut our back. So now in order to cut our back, all we have to do is just to cut. This is the front panel, right? If we want to cut our back, all we have to do now is to, you can see that I double the fabric. So whatever I'm cutting now, I'm cutting the left side of the front panel and the right side of the front panel. So I'm going to cut this out. So if we are to cut our back now, all we have to cut out is our 11 inches exact body frame. That is what we're going to cut, and we're going to add an extra 4 inches to our length for the shoulder overlap. So I need you guys to pay attention. You can see that. So I'm just going to cut this out also. You can see what I have. So this is my entire frame. So now at this place, this our overlap, we have to fold it inside. I'm going to fold it inside exactly on that mark, on that straight mark. I'm going to simply fold it like this. You can see that. And I'm going to iron it down. You can see what I'm doing here. And also at this place, I'm going to fold it down and basically iron it. You can see that. It's actually a very simple design. If you pay attention, you're going to understand. If you're enjoying the video so far and you know that you're definitely going to get something out of the video, make sure you give the video a thumbs up. It's very simple. I'm going to cut out this label on the fabric edge. If you are not using it, it's not necessary, not useful. So I'm just going to cut it out. And don't forget to measure our borders after that label on the fabric. So now all we have to do now is just to cut out our main back. The wideness of the back is going to give us 11 inches, which our main body measurement. That's our chest divided by 4 plus our 1 inch allowance. So I'm just going to fold my fabric, then cut out the back. So let me fold the fabric and show you guys the cutting of the back also. So I'm going to add an extra 4 inches to the down part of the back for the shoulder overlap. So right now this is my back. I already fold it into two. Back panel, this is the back panel. So the wideness here is a total of 11 inches. Let me show you guys so that you know that I'm doing exactly what I'm saying I'm doing. 11 inches, you can see that. And the length that I will be having here, don't forget our main length is 28 inches. 28 inches plus 4 inches, which will give us a total of 32 inches, right? You can see that's the 4 inches downwardly here, which will give us a total of 32. The 4 inches is for the shoulder to overlap on the shoulder of the back to overlap on the shoulder of the front. You can see here. So I need you guys to pay attention here. If you're working for a child, it might not be up to 4 inches, but for anywhere above 15 years old, I use 4 inches for my shoulder overlap. You can see what I have here. So this is my back panel. So all I'm going to do now is to place my front panel on top of the back panel. You can see, make sure the button area is actually directed to your side. That's the closed part. You can see, make sure it's coming down right here to your side. So what I have here, and make sure the edge is actually center line. Make sure it is aligned very well. See what I'm having. Make sure it is aligned very well. You see that? See that? See that? Align it very well. And if you look at the down part, you can see that I have the extra 4 inches. You can see that the extra 4 inches is at the downside. You see that? So at this place now, all I will be doing now is to slant my shoulder before cutting out all of the thing we need to cut. So here I'll be slanting my shoulder by 3.5 inches. 3.5 inches. So from that 3.5 inches that I mark, I'm going to connect it to the tip of the neck area. You can see that. Tip of the neck area. And I'm going to simply cut it out. You can see. So that's basically very simple. So after cutting out the shoulder line, after slanting the shoulder, you're going to drag this down part in order to align with the edge, in order to align with the hem. You see what I have here? See that? After that, align with the hem. I'm going to fold my shoulder. You can see here, I'm going to fold my shoulder by half of an inch. That's 0.5. That's usually what I used to fold my shoulder with, maximum half of an inch. You can see that. So when I'm stitching, I'll be stitching half of an inch at that particular place so that it's going to be aligned together, half of an inch overlap, and I'm going to iron it down. Hope you guys are enjoying the video so far. This is not the most technical part. If you're sewing a shirt, you can actually get it up to this stage, but the overlap, the double-breasted part is the most tricky part. So I need you guys to pay attention very well. That is very important. So after ironing it very well, I'm going to measure my shoulder. You can see that's the overlap right here. Just do it exactly the way I'm doing it. If you follow this step by step, you're going to get exactly the same results. So now my shoulder is 18 inches. My shoulder is 17.5 inches. So I'm going to add an extra half of an inch to that for my sewing allowance. So I'm going to mark 9 here. That's 18 divided by 2, which should give us 9. You can see that. I'm going to mark it right here. And I'm going to go down by exactly the same thing, 9 inches. 9 inches. I use exactly my shoulder measurement to gauge my armhole circumference. That's my shoulder divided by 2 will give me my armhole circumference. That's usually what I use. You can see that. And here, you see what I have here. I'm going to simply connect that to the armhole area. So after connecting that, that's my main armhole circumference. I'm going to go in a little bit. You can see that, in order to make the curve so that our hand won't be too wrinkled, at all. I'm going to go down by like half of an inch and connect it as well. You see what I have there so far. So after that is done, I'm going to mark my neck circumference. So I need you guys to pay attention here. I'm going to mark my neck circumference. So my neck is a total of 15.5 inches, 16 inches, like 15.5 actually. So 15.5, I'm going to mark 4.5 inches downward and 2.5 inches wideness. You can see right here. So after I get that, I'm going to simply connect that. If you're making a shirt, and because the chest of the shirt is actually opened, so you don't need like a totally accurate 100% neck cuffing at this part, right? So just pay attention at this place. So now after you get your neck circumference, you can just basically measure each round in order to know that it is accurate. So if it's 16 divided by 2 will give us a total of 16 divided by 2 will give us 8 inches, right? So if you measure from the tip right here, all the way like this, it has to end at 8 inches. But here it's a little bit more than 8 inches. You see what I have here? So in order to reduce that, just reduce it from the M part, from that down part, just reduce it a little bit upward. And if you remeasure it, it's going to give you your exact measurement. So after you get that, the next thing we're going to do now is to simply cut the neck. So from inside, lift this up a little bit. I've did several videos on how to cut a neck, how to cut armhole, and all of this part. The most tricky part of the outfit is the overlap of the shirt, the double overlap of the shirt. So pay attention at this place. This is the most important part. So here, from that neckline, depending on how you want the collar to be, the lapel, I want it to go down like this. You can see. You see what I have here? Just like that. You can see what I have. So that's where the collar is going to connect with and come to our neck area. So I'm going to cut out my neck now, just like this. You see that? So make sure you're cutting both the down part. You see, the down part, I already cut the down part also with the upper part. You're going to cut it together. But for the back, you can see that I did not cut the back together. I cut only the upper part of the back. You can see that. That's why I'm lifting it up for you guys to see it clearly. You can see that. So here, I'm going to cut it together like this. See what I have? See what I have here? And at this place, I'm going to simply trim it out. So that is what our neck is going to look like. You see what the neck look like. So at this place, I'm going to leave the overlap up a little bit. Let me adjust the camera very well. Okay, I'm going to leave the camera the overlap up a little bit and cut out that part. I'm cutting only the overlap, not the fabric itself, not the bodice. You can see that. So I'm going to cut that part out. You can see what I have. So that's what we're going to be having so far. You see it. So after that is cut, I'm going to align this together so that you guys are going to understand before sewing this, taking you guys through the process of the sewing. I'm going to trim this part out a little bit, all the way down. I'm just going to cut like 1 inch. I'm going to start for the tip from just the tip from the edge, and I'm going to cut out like 1 inch all the way down. You can see that. I hope you guys understand the video and you guys enjoy it. If you are enjoying it, make sure you smash that like button. You should do that, and make sure you comment if you have any question. So after that is done, I'm going to cut out my armhole just like this. You can see that. You can see that. So after that is cut, after cutting the back, I'm going to basically cut out the front as well. You can see that. You can see that. Basically very simple. So far this is what you're going to be having. So I'm going to open this up and align it so you're going to understand what I am doing in this video. You see that? This is what the back is going to look like. So if I place the front over the back, you can see here, if I place the front over the back, you can see what I have here. And you can see here, if I lift this up, I open this, you can see what the lapel is going to look like. You can see that. And from that lapel area, that's where we're going to connect our collar all the way to where we want it to stop and where we want it to end. And if I place this one also, you can see right here, it's actually very simple. So we're going to sew this together step by step, so you're going to understand all of these things we are doing in this video. So if I open this one also up like this, you can see we're going to do the sewing and the ironing together, so you guys are going to understand. You can see if I open this up like this, you're going to have your lapel opening, and you're going to fix your collar, and you're going to look as clean and nice as possible. You see what we have? That's if you want the chest to be closed, but if you want the chest to be open, you can just open it to how much you want it to be open. You see what we have? So after this is done, the next thing we are going to do is to cut out the facing that we are going to use to turn up the lapel area, right? The facing. So I'm going to cut out the facing, and we're going to go to the sewing aspect of the video. So just take one panel of the front panel, just take one part of the front panel, you can see, and I'm going to take a piece of fabric that I'll be used to cut the facing. Just a straight fabric is enough. So make sure you're working with the right and you understand the right and the wrong side of your fabric. So I'm going to place this right here. This is the fabric I'll be using to cut out the facing of the front that will reach to the lapel area. So let me fold this up just like this. Make sure it's arranged very well. You see that? I'm going to mark, let me just mark so that you're going to understand I'm working with the wrong side of the fabric. So now I'm going to place this above. This is my front panel. These are the double front panel. I'm going to place it above the fabric. You can see that. I'm going to place it above the fabric. You can see it's actually covered the entire neck circumference. You guys can see that it's actually covered the entire neck circumference. So I'm going to simply align it very well, and I'm going to cut it straight just like this. You can see what I'm doing. Let me layer the down part very well. I'm going to take you guys through the process of this step by step. I'm not going to omit any part because it is very important, and the collar aspect is actually the most important part. So you guys have to pay attention and make sure you did not jump this video. If you jump, you might miss the most important part. So I'm going to cut this all the way down. You can see that. And also the neck area, I'm going to also cut that place all the way down. You can see that. See that? And also the tip part area, I'm going to simply cut that part out. See what I have? So now if I open this down, you can see what I have. The neck has to be exactly so the extension, so that we are going to have something to fold like this, that will cover our inside. You understand, that will cover the inside of the outfit itself. So from this corner right here, I'm going to make a trim. I'm just going to make a slant so that the front panel that's going to overlap is not going to be too thick. That's the reason why I have to like cut out of that part. So this is what we're going to be using for our facing, our front facing. The total wideness of this now is almost 6.5 inches. It has to cover the entire neck itself. So you guys can see that. So this is what we're going to be having. See that? You can see. So after that is done, the next thing you're going to do is to fold everything together, right? Fold everything together till the exact place in which your lapel is supposed to be. You can see what I'm doing. Pay attention to my hand and my voice. So fold it backward just like this, and that corner aspect, right? I'm going to make a notch at that place. That's where our stitch is going to end. This part is very vital, right? You can see that particular notch that I just made right now. That's where our stitch is going to end. You can see that at that particular point, that's where the stitch is going to end. So now after that is done, the next thing we're going to do now is to basically stitch all the facing to the bodice itself. So this is my bodice, this is my facing, sorry. So from that wrong part of the facing is two, you cut two together. I'm going to fold these edges. You can see, just use your iron to just fold it all the way down, and also fold the second one. So let me do that, then we're going to the sewing machine and we're going to sew this to the bodice itself and end at that split in which we make our notch. That's where we're going to end the stitch. So after folding, you see what I have here? See what I have? So after folding, I'm going to take a piece of one of the frontal panel. You can see that. Make sure you're working with the right side. So the right side is going to be facing the right side, just like this. Just like this. So I'm going to make a stitch all the way down to the top of the neck. That place in which we make our notch, that's where we're going to end our stitch. So I'm going to do the two. Let me go and stitch the two and come back so we can continue. So now after stitching it, you see what I have here? This is a stitch. I end the stitch exactly at that tip, at that place in which we make our notch, and also all the way down. You see that? And I did the same thing on the second panel too, which is the second front. You can see that. So next thing I will be doing now is iron this. I'm going to pinpoint those edges, and I'm going to have my lapel looking straight and the front also looking straight. So let me iron it, then we're going to the next stage. So after ironing, you see what I have here? This is what it's going to look like. You can see how flat it looks. You can see that. This is how flat it's going to look. So if I fold this up, if I fold the lapel, the accurate way in which the lapel is supposed to be, you can see that we have no obvious stitch in the front area. You can see that. This is how it is going to look like. You can see that. I'm trying to like take you guys to the front and come back again so that you're going to understand what I am doing. So this is the second one as well. You can see this is the second one as well. So after this, the next thing we are going to do before we do the collar finishing is to basically do our back. So on our back, I already do the shadow facing and the label. So I already did a video on this, so a link will be in the description below to go and watch how to do that. After that is done, the next thing we're going to do is to join our shoulder. So now to join the shoulder, you're just going to join the shoulder alone and leave the front facing separately. Join the shoulder alone and leave the front facing separately. So after joining the shoulder, this is what I'm going to be having. See here. And also the shoulder we join, we are going to weave that edge so it won't be obvious. So this is exactly what we are going to be having. You see that? So that's where that place in which we make our notch, right? The next thing we're going to do now is to measure from that notch to the other notch. That's the exact measurement of our collar. So right now, just take your tape and just measure from that particular notch in which you make, from the notch to the second notch. You can see all the way to the second notch. Just measure it round like this. You can see that. So here I have 14 1/4, 14 1/4 of an inch, 14 1/4. That's the exact collar circumference that we are going to be cutting. So without further ado, let's cut the collar and do the stitching. So this is the interfacing that I'll be using for my collar. So now I'm using this because the collar doesn't have to be too strong, because we want it to relax on our back. If you're using a collar stay, it's going to stand and it's not going to relax as much as we want it to relax. So now the next thing we're going to do now is our 14 1/4 of an inch. We're going to basically divide it by 2, which is going to give us 7.1. You can see that. Just going to basically measure my 7.1 right here. I'm going to leave some allowance in the front before measuring my 7.1. So here 7.1, just measure that. That's before 1/4, 1/7. If you have seen my how to read measurement tape, you understand how I calculate my own measurement. So now after getting that, the next thing, I'm just going to trim out this part out. So the collar we are cutting is even just a rough hand collar cutting. So here you can see here, just make a straight line. So now at this edge, at this down part, we are supposed to make a curve in order to make the collar come straight. So I'll be taking out 1/2 of an inch from this area. You can see that. From that 1/2 of an inch, the total wideness of our collar is going to be at 3 inches. I'm going to mark 3 inches from the toe edge. Here also I'll mark my 3 inches, and here also I'll mark my 3 inches. Or you can simply just follow the total wideness of the lapel that we fold backward. We're going to use that, but here I want the collar to be smaller a little bit to the lapel. The lapel is 3.5 inches. So I'm going to connect these two together. My pen is not writing. Okay, so I'm going to connect these two together. So after that is done, the next thing I'm going to do now is to make a curve at this area. Just like this. Just follow up my hand. Just a rough sketch for a collar. You can see what I'm doing here. My pen is, maybe you guys should just buy me a pen. I couldn't get the place to get a pen. It's crazy. Not my pen, I'm just messing up. So here, just make a curve. So now from this top part, I'm going to go outside a little bit by 1/2 of an inch. You can see that. So from that 1/2 of an inch, I'm going to connect to the curve, which we did first. You can see that. After that is done, I'm going to basically cut the collar from that part. That will be the side that we are going to attach to our neck. You can see that. To cut it straight all the way to the top. You see that. And also at this place, I want the back collar to actually relax a little bit. So I don't want it to be up to that height of the front panel. So I'm going to take out 1/2 of an inch from that part. So from that 1/2 of an inch, I'm going to slant the collar all the way to the tip part here. I believe you guys are seeing what I'm doing. There's no magic, just a little bit of curve. You can see that. And I'm basically going to cut it out. It's as simple as A, B, and C. So this is what our collar is going to look like. Exactly this. This is what our collar will look like. You can see that. That's what the collar. So here is the piece of fabric I'll be using. So make sure you're working with the wrong side of the fabric. So I'm just going to place my collar on top of it, just like this. And I'll be using the gummy part of the collar. Just face it to the fabric. You can see that. Face it to the fabric. Make sure you leave a space at the end part, something that we are going to fold up. I'm just going to iron it. You can see that. That's what I have. So after ironing, I'm going to trim it out a little bit. Just leave like half of an inch at that edge. You can see. Just leave it. So here also I'm going to trim it out, and from that edge I'm just going to cut it straight. See that? So we are going to have something to fold. That's why I had to just cut that place straight. So after that is done, the next thing we're going to do now is to fold this edge. This edge part, I'm going to basically fold it inside. So what I'm doing, just iron it down inside. You see that? And also here, iron it down. You see how relaxed it is. So make sure you iron all of the sides. And also here, give it a thorough ironing. Make sure it as relaxed as possible. See that? So after that is done, the next thing you're going to do now is to fold the collar backward, just like this. Then I'll take it to the sewing machine and I'm going to run a stitch all the way from this side straight up. Then I'm going to come back like this and all the way down. I'm going to lock it, then we can do our turn up. So let me go and do the stitching and do the turn up. So this is what we're going to be having after stitching. You can see here. So all I have to do now is just to trim the excess on the sides. Trim the excess on the side of the collar. And also from the tip, trim out the excess. You can see that. So after trimming out all the excess, you're going to do the turn up for the collar. This is everything after trimming it out. I'm going to do the turn up. Just turn it up and make sure you pinpoint all of the edges and give it a good ironing. You can see that, pinpoint it and give it ironing. So this is what we're going to be having after that. You see that? So after that is done, the next thing is to basically trim this part out. You can see that. Leave a little bit of like a quarter of an inch that we're going to sew to the fabric. Leave it out just like this. See that? Just make sure you leave a quarter of an inch that you're going to sew to the fabric. So after that is done, so to our bodice, I already fold this together. So this is our main bodice. You see our lapel, you see how relaxed it is. The next thing we're going to do now is to basically open this. We are going to start our stitch. So okay, here I folded this at a total of 13.5 inches, and also the inside is going to be the same thing, 13.5 inches. You can see that. Depending on how open you want the chest to be, that's what you're going to open. So you guys can see that. So the next thing I'm going to do now is to basically, at this edge, I'm going to fold it together and get a center point. Get a center point for my collar. I'm going to make a notch at this place. See that? And also here, just open the lapel together and get a center point for your collar also. So right here is my center point. You can see that. And I'm also going to make a notch at this place as well. You see that? So after that is done, from this back right here, from the center point, I'm going to make a stitch. Just place your collar from the center point like this. You can see that. And I'm going to make a stitch all the way around the neck, and I'm going to end at that notch, at the first notch under our lapel, right? This is the most important part, so I believe you guys are paying attention, so you're going to understand how this is done. So I'm going to get to the under part of the lapel. You can see that the collar actually reached that exact place in which we make our notch. That's where our stitch is going to stop. Then after that is done, we're going to place this inside of the collar. Pay attention to what I'm doing. Let me take this to the sewing machine and do this first. Then I'm going to show you the closing aspect. That's the most important part. So make sure you give the video a thumbs up. So here, make sure you give the video a thumbs up. So far, this is where we are. I already stitched it all the way to the notch. You can see what I have. You see that? So now what I'm going to do now is very important. So give the video a thumbs up first before you see this closing. This is the most important part. So now to close the collar area, all you have to do is simple. Just place this. Make sure that you align this very well and just place this inside of the collar. You see that? Just inside of the collar itself. You see what I have here? Make sure it is relaxed. You see that place? You see that? Just place it inside of the collar, just like this. There's another way I can do this that will not have any stitch at all, but that will be part of my intensive class. But this is actually the most easy way you guys can do this, so I believe you're going to love the results you will get. So place this inside, and also the other side, place it inside and just run a stitch all the way round. You can see what I'm getting here. You can see that, just like this. You see what I have? You're going to run a stitch, and also here as well, place this inside of the collar and run a stitch. Make sure the stitch is as tiny and closer to the edge as possible. So let me take this to the sewing machine and do the stitch and show you guys the final results. Then we can do the hemming of the chest and the sleeve, and that is all. Let me go ahead and do the stitching and show you guys the final results right here. So this is what you're going to be having. You can see that. You can see the closing. You can see the closing of the collar. So if you fold this backward, it will never show any folding at that corner. So let me iron this and fold this backward, and you guys are going to see the final result. It's actually very simple. So this is how to make a vintage collar for a suit, like a double-breasted suit, or even if it's just a vintage shirt. So far this is what you're going to be having. Iron this collar first. Make sure the collar is relaxed. Iron it first, and basically just fold this backward like this, and also here fold the collar backward. Make sure you get the gaiters at exactly where it's supposed to be. You can see that. You can see that here, just like this. Make sure the gaiters is exactly where it's supposed to be. Arrange your collar very well. You can see that. So from this angle right here, you can see what I have, how smooth that place is looking. Just give it a thorough ironing. A steam iron is very preferable at this corner. A steam iron, or sprinkle some water on your fabric and give it a thorough ironing. So after that is done, this is what we are going to be having. You see this? This is very this is how clean your, if you can actually make this as exactly the same size as your collar. You can see the lapel is a little bit wider than the collar, right? Depending on the size in which you want, you can make it. So this is the final result. The last thing you're going to do now is just to place your hemming gum at this under part. Just use your hemming gum to close that part up. It's actually very simple. Just put an hemming gum underneath that opening, right? The folding in which we did before. Place some hemming gum under it and simply iron it down. And simply join your sleeve. And after that is done, this will be our final result. I already joined my sleeve. Give it a thorough ironing. All I have to do now is just to put the button in the front, and that will be all. If you like the video, make sure you guys give the video a thumbs up, and make sure you subscribe to the channel if you are yet to subscribe to the channel. There are a couple of videos on the screen right now that I handedly pick for you guys. I single-handedly pick this for you guys, so you watch it next, and let's get into the next video.